It's time for Golden Blue Dude to release his way too early 48 team college basketball brackets. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every day, but today is going to be a college basketball video because the transition is starting to happen. But I'm still going to talk about college football, just not today. Brackets. When you think of college basketball, you think of brackets. And ESPN does this thing where they do the full 68, then a 48, and then a 16, I believe. I like the 48 team setup, so I'm actually going to go with that, because once you go beyond that, it gets a little ridiculous. So here we go. Golden Blue Dudes 48 team, Region 1. Number 1, overall seed, easy. Gonzaga, 5-0. Great wins over Kansas, West Virginia, Iowa. No contest. The 2 seed would be Iowa. They just lost to Gonzaga 99-88, and they have a good win over North Carolina. They look pretty good. The 3 seed, Texas. Right now they're 7-1. They have a loss to Villanova, which is not bad, and they have good wins over Indiana, number 14 at the time, North Carolina, Oklahoma State, and Davidson. Yes, Davidson's a good win. The 4 seed in this region, Missouri. But don't worry, they're probably going to climb. They're 5-0. They're undefeated. Good wins over number 21 at the time, Oregon, and number 6 at the time, Illinois. The 5 seed, Florida State. 4-1. Their only loss to UCF, which is not a good loss, but they do have good wins over Indiana and Florida. The 6 seed, North Carolina. They're 5-2. Their 2 losses are against really good teams, though. Number 17 at the time, Texas, and at number 3 at the time, Iowa. Their win, Kentucky. Not a great win, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Tough start to their schedule. 7 seed, Illinois. Probably the hardest start to any schedule. They're 5-3 with losses to number 2 Baylor, Missouri, who is now highly ranked, and number 19 Rutgers, who's also undefeated. Wins at number 10 at the time, Duke and Minnesota. That's a good win. The 8 seed, Clemson, 6-1. Their only loss to Virginia Tech. Not a bad loss. Good wins over Purdue and Maryland. The 9 seed, San Diego State, 5-1. Their only loss to BYU. BYU's looking like a good team. Not a bad loss. Good wins over number 22 at the time, UCLA, and at number 23 at the time, Arizona State. The 10 seed, Colorado. They are 5-1. Their only loss to Tennessee. Not a bad loss at all. Good wins over Washington and at Kansas State. The 11 seed, East Carolina, 6-1. Their only loss at SMU. Not a bad loss, but not really any wins to hang your hat on. So I'm going by record and no terrible losses. The 12 seed, Purdue, 6-2 with losses to Clemson and at Miami. The Miami loss is head-scratching, but they do have good wins over number 20 at the time, Ohio State and Notre Dame. Region 2, the 1 seed, Baylor. They are 5-0 with a great win over number 5 at the time, Illinois, and just blasting everybody else. The 2 seed, West Virginia, 7-1. Their only loss to Gonzaga, 87-82. If you've looked at the teams Gonzaga's played, and they played some good teams, West Virginia has played them the closest. Good wins against Western Kentucky and number 19 at the time, Richmond. The 3 seed, Rutgers, 6-0, undefeated. Good wins over Syracuse and number 13 at the time, Illinois. The 4 seed, Michigan. They are undefeated, 6-0, with a good win over Penn State. They need to build that resume a little bit more, though. The 5 seed, Xavier. They're undefeated, 8-0, with wins at Cincinnati, against Oklahoma, and Marquette. The reason I'm counting Marquette is because they have tripped a lot of these teams up in my tournaments. So I'm going to count that as a good win if I see somebody have a win over them. The 6th seed, Virginia, 3-1. Their only loss was to San Francisco, but that is a bad loss, and no great wins to speak of. So I'm relying on that defense to bring this team back, but right now they are on shaky ground. The 7th seed, SMU, also undefeated, 5-0. Good wins at Dayton and against East Carolina. The 8th seed, St. Louis, 6-1. Their only loss to Minnesota. That's not a bad loss. Good wins over LSU and NC State. The 9th seed, Boise State, 5-1. Their only loss was to number 17 at the time, Houston. Now Houston is almost in the top 5. And a great win at BYU. The 10 seed, Washington State. They're 7-0. They're undefeated, but not really any great wins to hang their hat on. That's why they're not a higher seed. The 11 seed, Oklahoma. They're 5-1. Their only loss was to Xavier. That's not a bad loss. And a good win at TCU. The 12 seed, Indiana. They're 5-2. Their 2 losses were to good teams, though. Number 17 at the time, Texas, and number 20 at the time, Florida State. They have good wins over Providence and Butler. Region 3, the 1 seed, Kansas, 7-1. Their only loss was to Gonzaga by 12 points. They have good wins over number 20 at the time, Kentucky, number 13 at the time, Creighton, and then at number 14 at the time, Texas Tech. So Kansas is building a good resume, and tonight they will take on West Virginia to build even more. But hopefully that doesn't happen. The 2 seed, Villanova, 7-1. Their only loss to Virginia Tech. That's not a terrible loss. And a great win at number 17 at the time, Texas. 3 seed, Wisconsin. Their only loss at Marquette. They're 6-1. See, that's what I'm telling you. Marquette tripped some people out. That's not the last time I'm going to mention them. But a great win against number 23, Louisville. Embarrassed them. The 4 seed, Texas Tech, 6-2. Their losses to number 17 at the time, Houston, and to number 5 at the time, Kansas, by 1 point. But they don't have any great wins to hang their hats on. So their coach, Chris Beard, will have this team playing well, and no bad losses so far. The 5 seed, Ohio State, 6-1. Their only loss at Purdue. That's not such a terrible loss. Good wins at Notre Dame and against UCLA. The 6th seed, Duke. You heard me right. 6th seed. They're 3-2. Their 2 losses were to number 8, Michigan State at the time, and to number 6 at the time, Illinois. Good win at Notre Dame. The 7th seed, Northwestern, 4-1. Their only loss was to Pitt, which is that's not a good loss. But they do have a great win over number 4, Michigan State. The 8th seed, Syracuse, 6-1. Their only loss was to number 21 at the time, Rutgers, but they don't have any great wins to hang their hat on. So they need to build that resume a little bit more, but 6-1 is not bad. The 9th seed, Arkansas, they're undefeated, 7-0, but no great wins to hang their hat on. The 10th seed, Minnesota, they're 7-1. Their only loss was to number 13, Illinois. That's not a bad loss. And a good win, a very good win over St. Louis. The 11th seed, UCLA, 5-2. Their losses were to San Diego State. That's not a terrible loss. And to number 20 at the time, Ohio State. Again, not terrible. And a win over Marquette. There you go. I'm going to count it as a good win. The 12th seed, TCU, they're 6-2. Losses to Oklahoma and Providence. That's not super bad. And a great win at Oklahoma State. That was an upset. Region 4, the 1 seed, Houston, 5-0, with good wins over Boise State and number 14 at the time, Texas Tech. The 2 seed, Tennessee, they're undefeated, 4-0. Good wins over Colorado and Cincinnati. The 3 seed, Michigan State, they're 6-1. Their only loss to Northwestern, which it looks like that's not a terrible loss. And a great win at number 6 at the time, Duke. The 4 seed, Creighton, they're 6-2. With a loss at Kansas only by 1 point, and Marquette. There's that name again. Problem is, Creighton doesn't really have any great wins to hang their hats on. They need to build that resume up or they're going to continue falling. The 5 seed, Virginia Tech. They're 6-1 with a loss to Penn State. That's not super bad, but great wins over number 3 at the time, Villanova, and number 24 at the time, Clemson. The 6th seed, Oregon, 6-1 with a loss to Missouri. That's not a bad loss. And good wins over Seton Hall and Washington. 7th seed, Richmond, 6-1. Their only loss to West Virginia. Good wins over number 10 at the time, Kentucky. I know they don't look good now. And at Vanderbilt. The 8th seed, BYU. They're 8-2. Losses to USC. That's not a good loss. And Boise State. That's not terrible. Wins over Utah and at number 18, San Diego State. That keeps them in my brackets. The 9th seed, Georgia. They're undefeated, 6-0, but their only decent win is over Cincinnati. The 10th seed, LSU. They're 4-1. Their only loss was to St. Louis, and it was only by 4. Problem is, they don't have any great wins to hang their hats on, so that's why their seeding is so low. The 11th seed, Dayton. 4-1. Only lost to SMU. That's not terrible. And they swept the state of Mississippi, beating Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And the 12th seed, Providence. 5-2. Their only losses were to Indiana. That's not a bad loss, but then Alabama. That's a head scratcher. But they do have good wins at TCU and against Davidson. There you go. There's my 48-team bracket. Let me know what you think about it. I know I left out some teams that should have been in. Let me know who they are. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you on my next show.